Hey everybody! So this is my first ever YouTube where the camera is facing and pointing at me because I want to go through my story that I've gone through in the past 2 years in hopes that maybe it will bring somebody to a diagnosis faster or inspire somebody or just spread awareness. Okay, so 2 years ago in January of 2014, I woke up one day and I just felt vertigo, but nothing like too crazy. And I just went throughout the rest of the day, like it was nothing. And that night I woke up with like excruciating like pain in my chest and in my stomach, and I'm a very natural person, so I tried charcoal, activated charcoal. I tried ginger tea and lemon tea and honey and like whatever I could think of at 1 o'clock in the morning to try and help, because I thought it was gas. And like I was on the toilet and like shaking and like feeling really lightheaded. So it seemed like it was some kind of a bug, but it passed that night and nothing became of it. I was fine that weekend, so I thought that was weird. 5 days later, I just got done eating dinner with my boyfriend, and an hour after dinner, like something felt really, really strange in my chest, like where it felt like something just dropped. I know that makes like no sense, but what it felt to me was like my heart just stopped, and I went into like instant tachycardia, which if you guys don't know what tachycardia means, it means your heart rate is over 100 beats per minute, and when you're sitting, you shouldn't go to that. And so I like called my boyfriend over and I was like, Tim, you need to come here. I don't know what's going on with me. I feel like my heart just stopped. And he's studying to be a physical therapist and now is a physical therapist. And he's like, your heart can't just stop. Like maybe you had an irregular heartbeat, but for the most part, your heart's not going to stop. If you hear all that chattering in the background, that's my cats just running around like madmen. So, so I was like shaking really, really hard. Like my body was shaking and I couldn't seem to stop it. And he like came over and he's trying to like, Nina, just relax. Like you're just nervous. It's okay. Nothing happened. And I couldn't stop shaking. And the whole night I was shaking. And the next day I went to the doctors and told them about it, and they believed me. But they didn't know what happened, so they just said, keep an eye on it. And I also told them that for a while I was having irregular heartbeats, and we found out it seemed to be happening like before my period, and I've always had like kind of rough periods. So, anyways, I thought that was just like another one night thing, and that was weird. But as time went by, I started noticing that I was going into tachycardia after eating anything. Like it was always after eating. I even like drinking juice, having a banana. I was going into tachycardia, and it was very scary because the episodes, I'd call them, that would happen would be my like arms like start from my finger. Give me a moment. No. Okay, so it'd start from like my fingers, where my fingers start going numb, or like my toes would go numb, and it would start to spread up my leg and down to my like elbow. Sometimes like the back of my head went numb, and my teeth would just chatter like as though you're shivering and freezing, and you're not cold, and you start feeling really weak. You start feeling intense panic, like something innately is wrong, and you know it. Like your body is sending out adrenaline and all kinds of fight or flight hormones, but your mind is like, I'm fine. I'm not even freaking out. What's the problem? Like, wait, I was just having a fun time with friends, or I was just enjoying my meal, or I was just doing some homework. Like, why is this suddenly happening? And so I got dizzy, I get vertigo. not so much nauseous or a headache, but I definitely would feel like I'm fainting and I'm fading. And at the time, the only thing that would help would be to walk, because I think it helped like get the adrenaline put to use. And I just didn't understand why my heart rate's going so fast. Why I felt so weird, and why this would always happen after eating anything. And I would get bloated, and it was just a whole bunch of symptoms that are not pleasant and are very scary, especially when like you're at class. And this was during my last semester of college, where everything was going good. I had my friends. I was doing my senior thesis, and I'm a photographer, so I was really enjoying the project I was working on. And I thought everything was going good, so I didn't feel major stress. But whenever I told people like about these symptoms, and I went to the cardiologist thinking, there must be something wrong with my heart. They only found mitral valve prolapse, and they did all kinds of tests, and they're like, "You're fine, maybe it's just a little bit of a anxiety." And I'm like, I don't think that's the case. Like, this just happened out of nowhere. How is this anxiety when it's happening every time after eating or drinking? I didn't willfully think this. I don't understand. But I know some of my friends were also like, well, you know, you are going through like college, and college is stressful, so maybe it's just anxiety. And I'm like, no, guys, like I know my body really well. I know when I'm stressed, I know when I'm anxious. I don't like, this is stressing me out, but I don't think this is being caused by stress. So I don't, some people just didn't listen. So there was one day that I was having a really horrible night, and I would like wake up in the middle of the night gasping for air, feeling like I can't breathe, but I always could, with my heart racing. And we had heart monitors on me to check, and I was getting lots of irregular heartbeats throughout the day. And they're like, "Oh, just stop drinking caffeine." And I'm like, I'm not drinking caffeine, and I'm not even eating chocolate right now or having green tea or anything, and I don't drink coffee. So what else, But there's no answer. The doctor, I came in as early as I can get in and just dragged myself to work, or to the doctors, when like, I'm driving, and like my foot on the pedal is going like this because I'm shaky and feeling weak. And when the doctor saw me, she goes, "Okay, sit down." And so she's checking my pulse and doing an EKG. And she's like, "Okay, stand up." And I guess my heart rate went up to like 160 just from standing. And she like freaked. She was like, "Okay, we're gonna go grab the major doctor, like the big guy here. Just stay right. Are you okay? Do you feel it? Were you running before?" And I was like, "No, I just walked into here. Like I didn't do anything." So she went to go grab the doctor, and the doctor's like, "Okay, so this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna put you on beta blockers, and it's supposed to slow your heart rate." And I was like, "That's not what I want. I want to know what's wrong with me. I'm not trying to mask the symptoms, because I don't know what the heck is wrong. We could be trying to mask something, and there could be like a tumor in me or something. I just didn't know what was going on." And there was 2 times that I ended up going to the ER because of this. And just mind you, I had never gone to doctors in my, like, not like this in my life before. Like, we didn't really like going to the doctors. So this was the first time in my life I've ever been to so many doctors. I went to the the cardiologist, and I went to the gastroenterologist, and I said, every time after eating I'm getting a heart problem, so maybe it's my stomach. And he said, there's no connection with your heart and your stomach, which, by the way, is completely false. I don't even know how he got his doctorate, because that's a lie. There is a vagus nerve that I learn about later that is connected to your heart and your stomach. It's the longest nerve in your body, and it's called the wandering nerve, and it controls your heart rate and your digestion. So when some people, they don't want to listen, and they think you look fine and you're young, I don't know, they just don't give you the time of day, and you're a woman too, so that doesn't really help, because everybody thinks women are just crazy, I guess. So where was I? So I did go to a lot of different doctors, and when I went to the ER, the one night that it happened was I was with my friend Nikisha and Tim, and we just got done eating. We were having a lot of fun, just chilling in my apartment, and suddenly I felt that like drop feeling again, and I was like, oh, I know that it's coming. Okay, Dad told me to lay down, so let me try laying down instead of like pacing around like a crazy person trying to walk this done or walk this out. So I go to lay down, and like I'm getting more shaky, and at first it's just my hands, and then like my whole my limbs are shaking, and I'm really really shaking. And my friend Nikisha is like on the other side of the room, and she's just staring at me in horror, and Tim's trying to take a blood pressure reading, and I can't keep my arm still enough for him to do it, and I'm feeling dizzy, and I'm asking for ice to be put on my head, and I'm feeling like I'm fading. I feel brain fog, I feel confused, I feel panic, I feel scared. Obviously tachycardia, irregular heartbeats. I felt like my body was just breaking down. So of course we went to the ER, and of course they said, you look fine. Your results are fine. So either it's just anxiety, which you could take some, anxiety medication, or maybe it's IBS. And I was doing a lot of research, and I was trying to figure out what this could be, and I came across POTS, which is called postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome. And I said to the ER guy, do you think it could be POTS? And he's like, that's such a rare disease or illness. Like, it's really unlikely for it to be POTS. So I left with no conclusion again. But I wasn't ready to just say that there's no way this could be POTS. And I knew that the way to diagnose it was a tilt table test. So I found the exact, criteria in which you had to pay attention to, and how you did the test, how you performed it. Seeing as how doctors weren't helping me, I knew that Tim's physical therapy department had a tilt table test. So we just performed it there. We hooked me up, with the little finger pulse oxidation thing, with the blood pressure reading, to the table, strapped me in and everything. And we did perform the test where it's like, I don't remember now, but I think it's like 45 minutes supine or something, or suspine. And then when you go up to like a 70-degree angle for like 30 minutes, and you read the heart rate and blood pressure, and you monitor it like every couple of minutes, and you take a reading. And if it goes more than 30 beats per minute and it stays there for more than 10 minutes, then it is confirmed that you do have POTS, basically. So when I was laying, I was at a steady 70 beats per minute. And when I came up to my 70-degree angle, I was up to like 110, 115 beats per minute. So it was confirmed that like I had POTS. And I was so happy because I was like, I'm not crazy. Like, I have something. I definitely have something, and it's not in my head, and it's not just anxiety or IBS or something. So I'm looking this stuff up, and it turns out like more than 75 or 85% of the people who have it are women, around my age too, like, between maybe 13 to like 40s is where I saw most people have it, but a lot of people had it in my, in their young 20s, and I was only 21. And it's very, not like it's, a lot of people don't know about it. So like a lot of doctors don't even know to diagnose it because they've never even heard of it. And what it is a problem with the autonomic nervous system, which is the vagus nerve, and it's the parts of your body that control your breathing, your heart rate, your digestion, like things you do on a daily that you don't have to think about. Like you don't have to think about your breathing or what heart rate you should be at, while you're exercising, or, how you should be churning your food when you're digesting. So something was wrong in my body with that process, but I didn't know what and I didn't know why. And with POTS, it's just a bunch of symptoms, really. So there's things that cause it that they've found now, but there's no true root, like, understanding of what really is the main mechanism that's, like, doing this to people. But most people who had it were like, they couldn't stand up. They got dizzy when they stood. They had, blood pressure issues where they would actually faint. And some of them were reduced to wheelchairs or just bedridden. And I was so happy to know and now thankful that, like, I wasn't that bad. Like, I still walked and it actually helped me. And I was still able to get up and go to school and everything, and just suffer through the symptoms of, like, the shaky and the dizzy and the panic and whatever, and the irregular heartbeats, which feel like you're getting punched in the chest and suffocating, and it's not cool. So the more and more research I did on it, the more I found that things that did cause it were like pregnancies, surgeries, injury to the base of the neck, autoimmune diseases, and some of the viral, like, illnesses that they mentioned were like mono. I think Epstein-Barr might be the same thing as mono, and Lyme disease. And I did grow up in New York State where I was always in the woods, and I just, like, loved being outside. So Lyme seemed like, oh yeah, maybe, but I was like, I had a very basic understanding of Lyme, and I was like, I've never got a rash, I've never had, like, flu-like symptoms. If anything, and after POTS had happened, my body temperature has gone down to like 96.5 to maybe 97. It's not at 98.6, which it should be. So I didn't think there's any way I had Lyme. I mean, I didn't have achy joints. I did have achy muscles that were happening a lot, but Dad told me that it was just growing pains when I was growing up. So that's what I thought it was, except for now I'm 21 at the time, and I'm like, maybe it's not growing pains. Okay, maybe I'm mineral deficient. Like, maybe it's like, I am low in vitamin D. It's probably just that. Give me a moment. Psst. Okay. The cats are fighting. Okay, so I'm reading that, exercise is possibly supposed to help POTS, and salt and fluid intake is supposed to help POTS, and I'm feeling like kind of like an idiot for all the tests and doctors that I already paid for and went to, and my parents were freaking out trying to, find somebody who can help me, and of course nobody ever brought up POTS. I had to find that on my own. And so I found, like, a POTS page on Facebook that I became friends with and associated with, and it turned out, like, everybody had the same symptoms as me, and we shared so much in common, like, little things that you're like, oh, I didn't realize that was normal for the illness or the disease that I'm going through. Like, this is fascinating. Oh, I thought I was the only one that felt like this. So it was really, like, assuring and comforting. But yet nobody really has answers on there. They just have, like, hey, this kind of helped me, or, taking this much salt or doing this kind of exercise, sort of helped me. And yeah, so I tried to do Dr. Levine's protocol and did the exercise, and for me personally, I went too hard with it because I still felt energy, like I had good amount of energy. So I went really hard in the exercise, and it just set me backwards. And there'd be days where, like, I couldn't remember like, for a split second I'm freaking out because I'm like, wait, what's my name? Wait, what's my address? Hold on. Kaden. Oh boy, these cats are just they're really at it. So I just have really bad brain fog where I couldn't focus, and that's not like me. I'm a very focused person usually. when I want to be, I guess. And so this was scaring me, and I'm thinking I'm just gonna go crazy. I don't know what's causing this. There could be some underlying horrible virus in me, and maybe I'm gonna just slowly deteriorate. How did this happen at like the age of 21? And I'm crying all the time now because of this, because this is scary. I don't want to go anywhere where there's like not a hospital in sight. Even though the hospitals never did anything for me, I didn't want to go anywhere without food, because now I started to feel symptoms where if I go, and this still happens, if I go a couple hours without eating, it seems like it's hypoglycemia because I get the same symptoms, but yet my blood sugar has always been perfect. I've checked it so many times. I've had doctors check the fasting glucose levels. I've checked everything. And these cats. And it's always been fine. So I know I don't have hypoglycemia, but yet, and it would be like reactive hypoglycemia, because like I need to keep having food in me every couple of hours. So I don't know what that's about. And the bloating was really bad too, and still is, where there's times I definitely look like I'm pregnant after eating, and I have a flat stomach in the morning. Every morning it's flat. And people would ask me like, "Oh, you have like a little bun in the," and I'm like, no, I just bloat. Like, this is really embarrassing. I don't really want to have to tell you this. And yeah, okay. So fast forward, I had to just be able to live with this, because I've been crying, I've been praying, I've been having people pray for me. Tim and I have been praying, and I didn't understand, like, God, why did you allow me to go through this? What did I do wrong? Was it because I grew up drinking like milk and eating lots of meat and just eating junk food all the time because I became vegan and I tried changing my diet and it was doing better for me? I didn't understand what I did. Was I going through too much stress in my high school years? Like, why did this happen to me? Was it because I went to Africa, and maybe picked up some virus, 2 years back? Like, what could it be, and how can I figure this out, and will I ever figure it out? And Tim believes that, in time, your body will heal itself, and you're doing everything you need to do to get better. So just rest, relax, and just have faith in God. So, and there were times that I prayed to God, saying, I really, really need, like, a sign right now. Like, at one point, my cat, Caden, got really sick when I first adopted him from the animal shelter. And I said, if you can't even heal my cat, like, I know this is wrong, but I was like, if you can't even heal my cat, how do I have any trust that you're going to heal me? And Caden was definitely getting to the verge of death. He wasn't eating for like 4 days, and he was beyond dehydrated. It was 99 degrees out, and our AC wasn't working at the time, and he would not eat. And the doctor said, like, if it continues like this, he could die. And he did get better, and so that gave me hope. Like, oh, okay, well, maybe I will get better. But right now, it doesn't look like that. I don't feel good at all. And so there was another time where I was like crying to Tim, saying, why? I wish somebody, like a stranger, would just come up to me and say, like, what, I believe that God's gonna allow you to get better. And lo and behold, like that same hour that I prayed, I went on Facebook, and a guy, and I don't remember his name, but thank you so much. He wrote to me from the POTS page, and he said, like, Nina, I believe God's going to get you through this. I believe you're going to get better. And that was like, wow, okay, thank you, because you're sick yourself. Like, so that's crazy for you to say, especially at the same hour that I prayed. And then I went to a homeopathic doctor who saw me while I was having these symptoms, and he checked me over, and he was like, he started laughing, and he's like, oh, yeah, your vagus nerve, there's really something wrong there. And I'm like, yeah, can you tell me a little more? And he's like, listen, you're going to be just fine. You're going to be just fine. I know it. And I'm like, but, can you tell me a little more? Because that doesn't really make me feel any better. Like, I don't understand what you're seeing right now. And he kind of didn't fully elaborate, but Tim felt inspired because he was like, yeah, I think he was really like, he really knew his stuff and everything. So I think he knows what he's talking about. You're going to get better. So when I was done with college, I came back to New York because we were in Michigan. Came back to New York and had somebody at my local church who is also a naturopathic doctor come see me, or me go to him. And I wasn't supposed to eat for like 2 hours prior, and I didn't eat for like I think 6 hours, just because you're supposed to get your blood taken, and we're gonna check it over and everything. And I started getting so symptomy, where I started feeling dizzy, um, maybe a little nauseous, like definitely irregular heartbeats, and I was fading. And my mother was with me, thank God, so she could drive home, and like my vision was whiting out, my hearing was going mute, my heart rate was like at 130 laying down with my feet up, blood pressure on both sides of my arms, because they had a blood pressure cuff to check, was different on each arm, and he didn't really understand why, but blood sugar was fine, and he was like, I don't understand why this is happening to you right now. Like, why is your heart rate so high, and you're laying down with your feet up? Like, what is, and so he thought, you must just be mineral deficient. Like, this is ridiculous. And we looked at the blood under the microscope, and we did see like little squigglies that he said, oh yeah, those are parasites, those are bacteria. But, I guess it's like common for people to have that, at least a little bit. Um, and he showed me some other things in the blood which I thought were cool, but at the time I couldn't focus at all because I was basically on the verge of passing out and trying to prevent myself from passing out as much as I could. So I got so discouraged, and I felt like there was just nothing I was going to do to get better. Here I am, I graduated college, I was done with my senior thesis, I did a great job, praise God, and I have to get a job, and I can't even like keep myself together right now. I am doing juicing now, seeing if that's going to help me. I think it did help the irregular heartbeats, but it wasn't like doing much for POTS. And my aunt, who's a nutritionist, was trying all types of things, researching, trying to give me new, like, okay, try this supplement, okay, well, why don't you try this meditation thing and yoga and like read this book? And I was doing everything, and I didn't feel like any of it was really doing, like, giving me the results I wanted, bringing me back to normal. So, so finally, my friends and my parents all basically decided, there's nothing more you can do, just relax and get through it best you can. But you're just gonna have to accept that you have this, and if anything comes up, we'll see. But for now, you're doing like, okay enough where you could get a job. So it might be best for you to work and get your mind off of this and just try something new. So I did get a really good job in New York City, but it required me to move like an hour away from New York City, and at the time I was 2 hours away. So I was living on my own, paying bills and everything for a year before I got married to my boyfriend, who's now my husband, Tim. And I got through it. Like, there were definitely days where I had symptoms, and I didn't want to tell my job that, hey, I actually have this thing that, okay, well, we don't really know what it is, but I know that I have a nervous system, disorder with my autonomic nervous system. So I just always had food on me, and people are probably wondering in my office, like, why does this girl eat so much? But they didn't say anything, so. And if I did get symptomy, I would just go out and walk and maybe call my mom or call Tim or call whoever I could talk to try and get through it. Or I'd, sometimes while I'm at work, I'd post on the Facebook page, like, guys, I feel really not good right now. I feel XYZ. And they'd say, you know what, just drink, do this or try and do this or just breathe through it. Or, if you don't feel good, just go home. It's okay. You can go home. And I did end up telling my manager and a coworker about what I had. And thankfully my coworker believed me, and my manager started to say, are you sure it's not just anxiety? And of course that's like, that really ticks me off now, because I know this is not anxiety. You can't have, like, it's not anxiety when you stand up, you're having tachycardia every single time you stand up. When you do any kind of exercise, your heart rate goes up to 200 beats per minute when it should be at like 130 or 140. So I get really, really tired of the ignorance that people have, and the judgment that people have when they see that you look like a fine, healthy young woman. I think it must be in your head. And that's not the case, as a lot of times illnesses and chronic illnesses are invisible. And I've heard too many cases where people with the POTS have disability sticker and they put it on their car and they walk to the grocery store and people turn around and stop them and say, you know, that's only for real disabled people. Disability doesn't just mean you're in a wheelchair. So I think the world needs to be educated, especially on dysautonomia, because I didn't even know about it before this. So anyways, I did get married, freaking out that I wasn't going to be able to stand at the altar, because also I was having, and I've had heat intolerance ever since then, and I love the heat, but ever since this, like, I don't sweat normally, and I don't know, I just know that I start feeling really faint, low blood pressure and everything when I go outside, and I read that it's because when your nervous system's not working right and it's hot, your blood vessels dilate instead of constricting in your legs, so blood just pools down and you feel like crap. And then tachycardia comes because your body's like, OMG, we're not getting enough blood to the brain, so, you know, we gotta pick it up. And then you just feel the effects of all the adrenaline that is happening to race, you know, your heart, and perhaps to bring your blood pressure up. And you're also, a lot of POTS people are not, they don't have enough blood volume. They have like 30% less blood volume than most people, so that's why it's recommended to exercise and to have water and salt. Just masks the symptoms, basically, because it kind of tricks your body into building more blood volume so that you don't feel symptomy as much. But it's not a cure. It's just, you know, you keep doing it and you will feel better. And I was still trying to exercise and still drinking water, and especially when I'm outside, I need to drink like a lot of coconut water to have like electrolytes, and salt. I need to add salt because coconut water doesn't have enough. Okay, so I was freaking out thinking that I was not going to be able to stand at the altar because it was an August wedding outside, 2 o'clock and midday, the hottest day of the year. And I'm shaking and my heart rate's going, and I'm like telling my sister, like, give me water, I need to drink water. But we went through it. We even went to Mexico, where it is beyond humid and the feel like temperature is always over 100, and we just stayed inside until it got to like 5-6 o'clock, where I was a little more bearable to go outside, or I just stayed in the water. And I'm just thanking God that I got to go through that, because that was, you know, the best time of my life. And I really wanted it to be to work out, and it did. So I was starting to feel slowly better and better. I mean, I had days, especially when I got sick, with anything like a cold, or when my period came up, like, symptoms got way worse and it just dropped, and, you know, you're feeling shaky, you can't sleep, you're waking up in the middle of the night. For me, I was like really hungry a lot, so I would just keep eating, and like nothing was sufficing me. It's like I'm a bottomless pit. My stomach feels like, you know, it's contracting and convulsing when there's nothing in it, or where there is food in it. Like, it just doesn't feel right. And I mean, there was a lot of stomach things, heart things, you know, overall body things. And, but for the most part, when I was not sick, or having my period, and, you know, like, it was in between those times, like, I was doing better. I could now do more exercise than before. I can eat, like, before I wasn't able to eat avocado and walnuts for some reason, because anything heavy to digest was really causing me a lot of symptoms. And now I can eat pretty much whatever, but I did develop a sesame seed allergy from the POTS. I have no clue how, and I don't understand why. So whatever, I don't really like sesame anyways, but it's very inconvenient when you go out to, like, my favorite Korean restaurant and you kind of can't eat it anymore because they cook with sesame oil all the time. So yes, I'm doing better. And it was 2+ years now. Like, it's been 2 years and a couple of months. And so I started feeling like, I'm tired of researching. I'm getting really tired of trying new supplements. I'm taking some stuff, hoping that it's good for my nervous system and it's good for my immune system and it's good for neurotransmitters and adrenal glands and everything, but I don't know if it's doing much. But I'm just gonna kind of like keep doing what I'm doing, and I'm not gonna go do much more. I'm just done with trying to find a root cause. I've narrowed it down to like nothing. I've already checked so many things. I had so many tests done. I've had heavy metal tests done. I've had stool tests done. I've had the 24-hour heart monitor. I've had what do you call it, endoscopy done. I've had ultrasound done. I've had like anything that I could think of done, and I just was like, I'm done. I'm done. I'm just gonna do like Tim says. I'm gonna just wait it out and hope that I'll continue to even still progress and that I won't get worse. So a few months ago, Mom and Auntie Pia, who are not ready to put this to rest, said, Nina, you really just need to check for Lyme. That is the one thing we have not checked for. We need to check to make sure you don't have Lyme, because if you do, that could be like critical. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, it doesn't make any sense. I've already spent thousands of dollars to get, all these tests done, and they're not showing me anything, or they're not pointing me to anything. So, like, what's the point? And so she was like, no, but I really, really, though, like, you can't be stupid about this. This is Lyme we're talking about, and people could die from it. So I said, okay, fine, like, I'll get this checked. So I went to, like, a Lyme specialist in my area, and he did a blood test about a month ago, and it came back, and he said, okay, so sorry, but you do have antibodies to Lyme specific protein. And I was like, what the heck does that mean? Like, it's not like a clear yes or no from the Western blot test. It's more like, it shows how your body has reacted to specific proteins or parts of the bacteria, the spirochete bacteria, which Lyme is a part of. So it's not actually measuring like the Lyme in your blood or anything, or the Borrelia, I think, bacteria in your blood. It just shows how your body has reacted to it. So I saw that I had some reactions, but it wasn't necessarily enough to be confirmed, like CDC confirmed positive for Lyme. So I said, okay, I'm going to retake this test. I don't even believe that this is true. Like, this is so weird. I don't understand. How could I have Lyme all these years? Wouldn't I have been dead? Like, so, I went to the top Lyme lab in the country, which is Hygienics, and I sent my blood into them, through my doctor. But I believe you could do it through other, like, independent, like, labs kind of thing. I don't think you have to go through the doctor if you can't find a doctor that's willing to do this. They only charged me like $200. I thought it was going to be like $500, so I'll have to recheck that. But I was waiting for weeks saying, well, what, telling my friends and my close family, what if I have Lyme? And some of my family was saying, are you sure that it's not like in your head, Nina? Like, are you sure? I think you're just probably too anxious. You probably just need to calm down, And of course, hearing that from your family, that's really hurtful. But people are going to say it. Where they're not going through it and they don't know what you're experiencing and they've not seen you go through it, they don't understand. So, whereas the people that I knew who knew me well, who saw me go through this, who heard me, trembling when I had to suffer, the symptoms, they understood that this was real and that this is not in my head and I am not in control of this, and something had happened to me. That's why Mom and my aunt persisted. So IGNX Labs just came back yesterday, the results, and I found out that I should have listened to my mother 2 years ago, who told me to just check for Lyme, um, and that I was CDC confirmed with the IgG, which means chronic or past Lyme, like exposure. That I've definitely had Lyme. I had 5 bands out of 10 marked positive. Band number 41 had 4 plus signs. And if you know what band number 41 is, it is like the tail end of the sphericite bacteria. So it's not necessarily Lyme specific, but the other alternatives like rat bite fever, relapsing fever, um, lepros something, and syphilis didn't seem to match my symptoms at all. And they're very, very rare to have, so it's much more likely, especially seeing as how I have Lyme specific bands, that band number 41 is really a reaction to Lyme, in my case. So I had 4 plus signs, which is practically unheard of. I've seen people with 1, 2, or 3 plus signs. That means my immune system was really, really, really attacking, um, I guess, the tail end of the bacteria or something like that. Like I don't fully understand this yet. So I also had band 23 to 25, which is one band, and that is Lyme specific. I had band 30, which is not necessarily Lyme specific. I had band 39, which is Lyme specific, band 41, which is maybe Lyme specific, I don't know, and band 58, which they believe might be like a heat shock protein or heat shock something or other to the protein. Like, I don't really know. So, and I don't know if I missed any numbers, but that's the IgG. And then IgM, which is current infection, you're supposed to have 2 out of 3 from IGNX and CDC standards. And I had band number 41 positive, but band, I think, 23 and 39 or something like that, they were indeterminate, which means my body showed, and I guess they're like lymph node, it's like antibodies coming from your lymph nodes at the time because it's current infection, and I think IgG comes from like your bone marrow or something. I could be wrong, so don't criticize me if I'm wrong. I'm sorry. But anyways, current infection, like it showed with the indeterminate that I had some sort of reaction, but not necessarily enough to be considered a positive reaction. So it's kind of inconclusive. But for a Lyme literate doctor, they would probably see my test results, which I will be trying to find a natural Lyme literate doctor, because the doctor I go to now just wants to give me antibiotics, and I feel as though I've already gone 2+ years with this, and I'm getting better. So obviously my body is capable of handling this. Maybe it is good that I've been having a vegan diet and taking all these natural supplements and juicing and trying to exercise and relax and do all this stuff. Maybe it is actually doing me good, and I thought this whole time that perhaps I got sick because of the vegan diet, and that, I should be eating meat, because that's what my dad says. So, so they would, a Lyme literate doctor who could treat me naturally, but regardless, natural or or conventional, they would probably say that it's likely that I still have a current infection. And I mean, I still have achiness like all the time in my muscles, and I just always thought it was growing pains. But of course, now I'm 24, and it's probably not growing pains. It's probably Lyme, and it makes sense now that when I first got POTS, like we did a saliva test for cortisol and estrogen and progesterone, just to try and see like why is, oh, Jaden, he's on my table. Psst. Just to see why my irregular heartbeats were coming on before my period, like in the luteal phase, like after ovulation. And we didn't really find anything except for that, like, it seemed like all my hormones were a little bit on the low side, and DHEA was definitely low, which is a precursor hormone to like I think testosterone, progesterone, and estrogen. So it's like necessary as like the building blocks to create all these other hormones. So perhaps I was getting the irregulars because of that. Now it seems like I might be getting the irregulars really because of Lyme, because they've checked my heart over and there's nothing wrong with it, and they've checked my electrolytes and everything, and technically they're in the right ratio. So and I've checked hormones multiple times. I went to a endocrine doctor, and they didn't see anything out of the ordinary or out of the not like out of the norm either. So they don't know. But anyways, when we saw cortisol was like through the roof, and the doctor at the time was like, "You must have gone through like some kind of really traumatic experience. You must have had like been raped or something, because this is like really high stress." And I was like, "No, I don't feel that stressed." And they're like, "Well, you must have had like a traumatic." And I'm like, "No, I just don't think that's the case." Like, and now I'm learning that cortisol actually comes up that high when you're also going through a chronic infection. So it's not just chronic stress emotionally, but stress physically too. And now I'm seeing that nobody's ever mentioned Lyme to me, ever, except for my mom and the internet, and some people on the POTS page who've had they found out that, hey, to their surprise, they didn't think they had it either, because they didn't have like the rash and like maybe the achy joints or whatever, or the flu, but they had Lyme. And so I couldn't believe it, that all this time the reason why I got POTS is because before I even got to the symptom stage where I actually felt and had POTS and was able to be diagnosed as having POTS, even before then, because cortisol is measured like as chronic, like for the past 6 months, which means before January of 2014 I was having something happening, and it could have been even way before then. We don't know when it started, but I obviously had gotten maybe bit by a tick or something and got Lyme and had no clue. So I guess that's it. I'm gonna be trying to go to a Lyme literate doctor to see if I can get healed naturally. Now I'm kind of researching Stephen Berner's, I think that's his last name, protocol, where he's got different herbs that you could take, and I'm taking them, and I do notice that like I don't feel as achy when that like when I take it, but it's kind of too early to tell. So that's all I've got for right now. Thank you guys so much for listening. I hope that it inspires you guys just to get, if you have POTS and you don't know the cause, or if you have symptoms, maybe neurological, that you don't understand how it came about. I mean, it's especially if you live in the upper north, east, it's just worth it just to go straight to a Lyme literate doctor and get tested, because conventional tests in like regular doctor's offices are not sensitive enough to pick this stuff up. It misses like half the people that actually have Lyme. So that is it. Thank you guys so much for listening. I pray for the best for your healing and your journey, and please let me know if you have any questions or comments. I know that this is long and yet barely covers some of the stuff I went through and the doctors I met, and things that I've learned all along the way. But yeah, I thank you, and God bless.